Katie was 24 and fresh out of university when she started working at the International Call Center in Leeds City Center. Tech Global Solutions occupied a multi-story Victorian building with different companies on each floor. The night shift pay was good, almost double the day shift, which was perfect for Katie's student loan payments and helping with her nan's care home fees. The building layout was straightforward. Ground floor reception, floors 2 to 6 housed different companies, 7th floor was Tech Global's night operations, 8th floor mostly storage and meeting rooms, 9th floor completely empty. Management had clearly stated that the 9th floor was off limits due to structural concerns and renovation planning. Night shift hours were 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. Usually 12 to 15 employees worked, customer service reps, technical support, and 1 supervisor. The building's security guard was an elderly Yorkshireman called Frank, who'd been working there for 8 years. Friendly bloke, always had tea brewing for the night staff. Katie's workstation was near the east wall, window facing the headrow. Work was typical, handling international customer queries, mostly US and Australian clients due to time zones. Colleagues were sound, environment was professional, and Katie was settling into the routine well. One particularly cold February night, around 1:45 a.m., Katie noticed something odd. The building's lift was continuously going to the 9th floor. The display screen showed floor 9 lighting up, then back to ground floor, then back to 9. The pattern was consistent, every 3 to 4 minutes. Katie mentioned it to Supervisor Mark. He said, "Probably a technical glitch. Maintenance will sort it tomorrow." But the pattern continued. Other colleagues started noticing too, the lift's constant movement. During her break at 2:30 a.m., Katie went to ask Frank about it. "Frank, why does the lift keep going to the 9th floor? Has anyone gone up?" Frank's expression changed. "Nobody's gone up, love. I've been here all night. Lift's moving on its own. This has happened before." "Before?" "Aye, lass. Sometimes things happen in this building, especially winter nights. I told management, they said it's the automatic system playing up." Frank seemed uncomfortable, but Katie pressed. "What else happens, Frank?" "You focus on your work, love. Some things are better left alone." But Katie's curiosity was piqued. She got in the lift and pressed the button for the 9th floor. The lift slowly moved up, stopped with a ding. Doors opened to complete darkness. Emergency lighting barely illuminated the floor. Workstations were arranged similar to the 7th floor, but covered in dust sheets. Chairs were overturned, computers disconnected, files scattered. Clearly abandoned for months, maybe years. Katie switched on her phone's torch and started exploring. Then she heard it. Soft, clicking sounds, like keyboard typing. Slow, deliberate, coming from different directions across the dark floor. Following the sound, she went deeper into the floor. Then she saw something that made her freeze. One workstation had a computer screen glowing. Faint green light, DOS-style interface. And the keyboard, keys were pressing themselves, text appearing on screen. Katie moved closer. The screen showed a report being created. Quarterly sales data, employee performance metrics, client communications. Normal office work, but happening on a supposedly dead system. Then another screen lit up, then another. Across the floor, different workstations came alive, all showing different work. Emails being composed, spreadsheets being filled, presentations being created. But the chairs were empty. Keyboard sounds echoed across the empty floor, but nobody was there. Katie's rational mind was trying to process maybe automated systems, maybe remote access, maybe delayed startups, but the typing sounds were too organic, too human-paced. She pulled out her phone to record, but the camera showed only darkness where screens should be glowing. Audio recorded the typing sounds clearly, but video was just empty darkness. Then everything stopped. Complete silence. All screens went black simultaneously. No typing, no humming, nothing. In the silence, she heard something else. Breathing. not her own. Multiple sources of breathing surrounding her in the darkness. She turned her torch around frantically. Empty workstations, no movement, but the breathing continued, slow, steady, like several people were standing just outside her light's range. Then every computer screen suddenly blazed to life. Bright white light flooded the floor, and on every screen the same message was typing itself. "Katie, we've been waiting. Turn around." The message repeated on dozens of screens, text scrolling, filling every monitor. Her name echoing through speakers that shouldn't have been connected. Her heart pounding, she turned around. Her torch illuminated dozens of figures standing between workstations. Humanoid shapes, but indistinct, like shadows given form. No clear features, just dark outlines of people in office clothes from different eras. They stood perfectly still, but she could feel them watching her. The breathing sounds were coming from them, artificial, mechanical breathing like ventilators. Katie ran towards the lift, but the shadows moved to block her path, not aggressively, but deliberately. They formed a circle around her, slowly closing in. "Who? What do you want?" she whispered. Screens flickered, new message appeared. "Stay, join the permanent night shift, work with us, forever." The shadows reached out with arms that stretched unnaturally. Katie pushed through them. They felt like cold air, no substance, but somehow solid. She reached the lift, frantically pressed buttons. Doors opened, but the lift wouldn't descend. Buttons weren't responding. The shadows gathered at the lift entrance, waiting patiently. Temperature dropped rapidly. Her breath became visible. Ice formed on the lift walls, and through the cold, she heard voices, dozens of them, all whispering in various accents from different decades. "Welcome to the permanent night shift, Katie. Your resignation won't be accepted." The next thing she remembered was waking up in Leeds General Infirmary. Hypothermia, they said. Security found her on the 9th floor at 6 a.m., unconscious from cold exposure. No explanation for how she got there or why the temperature dropped so severely in just one area of the building. Katie quit the job, never went back. But now, wherever she works night shifts, she hears typing sounds. Keyboards clicking in empty offices, screens glowing with messages meant for her. The shift never ends, Katie.
If these stories sent chills down your spine, don't vanish into the darkness without hitting that like button. Share your scariest experience in the comments below, because your story might be featured next. And remember, the scariest thing is missing out, so subscribe now before the next nightmare finds you.
David worked as a software developer in Birmingham's Jewelry Quarter. His wife Rachel taught at a local primary school, and their 5-year-old son Oliver was a bright and active child. Life was normal and happy until Oliver began showing strange behavior. It started in September. Oliver would wake up every night at exactly 3:17 a.m. Not 3:15, not 3:20, always 3:17. He would be crying and shaking, saying that the tall man had come to visit him. David and Rachel initially thought these were night terrors, which are common in young children, especially when routines change due to starting year 1. But Oliver's descriptions were detailed and consistent. "Daddy, the tall man is really tall. He can touch the ceiling. His arms and legs are really long. They can stretch like elastic. He walks on the ceiling like a massive spider. And Daddy," Oliver would whisper, "he hasn't got a proper face. Just dark, but there are teeth, white and really long teeth." They consulted their GP. Dr. Williams said it was probably an adjustment phase, maybe something disturbing he'd seen on telly or an incident at school. They started sessions with child psychologist Dr. Sarah Thompson. She said Oliver was a very imaginative child, possibly processing some subconscious fears through this tall man character. But Oliver's descriptions became more disturbing. The tall man says he's really lonely. He wants to play with me. The tall man's house has loads of children. They went with the tall man when they were little too. Now they're part of the tall man's family. David had the house security checked. All windows were locked, doors secure, no signs of break-in. He asked neighbors in their Edgbaston street, no suspicious activity seen. But Oliver kept insisting, the tall man is real, Daddy, only I can see him because I'm special. In October, things escalated. Oliver started drawing pictures of the tall man. The drawings were disturbing, stick figures with disproportionately long limbs, no face, just a scribbled black oval with white dots for teeth. He also drew the tall man on the ceiling in his pictures, upside down, like he was walking on it. Dr. Thompson said art therapy was helpful for children to express their fears, but when she saw the drawings, her expression changed. David, these drawings, there's a consistency here that's unusual for a child's imagination. Usually, children's monster descriptions change over time, but Oliver's are remarkably stable. David decided to install a night vision camera in Oliver's room. High-end kit with motion detection and audio recording. The first 3 nights showed nothing unusual. Oliver would wake up, cry a bit, then go back to sleep after they comforted him. But the 4th night's footage shocked David. At exactly 3:17 a.m., Oliver sat up in bed. His eyes were open but glassy, unfocused. He was looking at the ceiling and whispering to someone. "Yes, tall man, I can hear you. Yes, I'm ready to come. But I'll miss Mummy and Daddy. Can they come too? No? Only me? Okay, tall man, I'll wait." The camera showed only darkness on the ceiling, but suddenly the temperature readings began dropping from 18 degrees Celsius to 2 degrees Celsius in just a few minutes. Oliver's breath became visible like a winter morning. Then what happened next, David could never forget. On the ceiling, slowly and deliberately, wet footprints began appearing. Barefoot footprints, adult size, but somehow wrong. Toes too long, gaps between them too wide. These prints moved horizontally across the ceiling like someone was walking upside down. Condensation started forming on the camera lens. The audio picked up low-frequency humming, too low for normal human hearing, but the equipment captured it. And between the humming, whispers in an accent David couldn't place. "Soon, very soon, he's almost ready." Suddenly, a shadow quickly passed across the frame. Humanoid, shape but proportions completely wrong. Torso too thin, limbs too long, head too small. The shadow lasted just a split second, but clear enough to see it wasn't human. At the end of the recording, Oliver looked at the ceiling and said, "Tall man, Daddy put a camera up. Can he see you? No? Only me? Right then. The tall man says tomorrow's the last night in our house. After tomorrow, I'll live with the tall man forever." David showed the footage to Rachel. Both had the same reaction, immediate packing. They left the house that same night, went to Rachel's sister's place in Solihull. But the tall man followed them. In the new house, every night at 3:17, footsteps could be heard on the ceiling. Oliver's behavior became more withdrawn. He would stare at the ceiling even at school, smiling and nodding like he was listening to someone. Teachers complained that Oliver was distracted in class, constantly looking up. The head teacher called a parents' meeting when Oliver told his classmates about the tall man, frightening other children. David tried changing cities, London, Bristol, even considered moving to Ireland. But everywhere they went, 3:17 a.m. brought ceiling footsteps. Oliver would smile and whisper to the ceiling, "The tall man's family is really big now, Mummy and Daddy. Don't worry about me."
If these stories sent chills down your spine, Don't vanish into the darkness without hitting that like button. Share your scariest experience in the comments below, because your story might be featured next. And remember, the scariest thing is missing out. So subscribe now before the next nightmare finds you.
Emma moved into her new flat in Manchester's Northern Quarter after her messy divorce from Jane's. 3 months of court battles, solicitors, and family drama had finally ended with her getting her own place. The Victorian Terrace house was old, 1890s construction, but the location was perfect and within her budget. The estate agent had mentioned that the previous tenants had suddenly relocated to Australia, hence the quick letting. On moving day, Emma's mother kept saying she felt something heavy about the house. "Love, there's something not right about this place," she kept insisting. But Emma ignored her concerns. After everything she'd been through, she needed her own space. Independence was worth more than superstitions. The first week went normally. Emma was establishing her routine: morning job at the digital marketing agency in Deansgate, evenings unpacking and decorating. While exploring the cellar's old belongings left by previous tenants, she found an antique mirror. It looked Edwardian era, an ornate mahogany frame with intricate carvings of ivy and roses. The mirror itself was huge, almost floor to ceiling, and surprisingly clear despite its age. Emma moved it to the sitting room. Friends who visited said it looked elegant and added character to the place. But her best mate Sophie commented, "There's something weird about this mirror, Em. The reflection somehow looks off." Initially, Emma didn't notice anything unusual, but then small things started happening. When she stood in front of the mirror getting ready in the morning, her reflection seemed to move with a slight delay, like there was a millisecond lag. Emma assumed it was an angle problem or the old glass distorting things. But then discrepancies began. Emma would stand wearing a navy jumper, but her reflection showed burgundy. Emma's straight hair appeared wavy in the reflection. Initially, she blamed exhaustion and stress from the new job and divorce proceedings. Things escalated when Emma realized her reflection had different expressions. When she smiled, the reflection remained serious. When she looked knackered, the reflection appeared energetic and alert. Emma told Sophie, who said, "Maybe you need counseling, love. The divorce trauma might be messing with your head." But Emma knew something genuinely wrong when one evening her reflection winked at her, while Emma herself wasn't winking. That night, she covered the mirror with an old bedsheet. But at 2 a.m., Emma's sleep was broken by the sharp sound of breaking glass from downstairs. Heart pounding, she carefully went down to the sitting room. The mirror's bedsheet lay on the floor, and the mirror had cracked, a perfect vertical line from top to bottom through the center. But the crack wasn't reflecting her sitting room. Through the crack, Emma could see another room entirely. Different furniture, dark Victorian pieces instead of her modern IKEA items. Walls were deep green instead of her magnolia paint. The lighting was different too, more gaslight yellow and flickering. In that other room, Emma could see someone moving, a woman who looked exactly like her, but with differences that made her skin crawl. Her hands were wrong, fingers bent backward at impossible angles. Her hair moved despite no breeze, and her eyes, completely black. No whites, no pupils, just endless darkness. The other Emma turned toward the crack and smiled. Her teeth were razor sharp, filed to points. She raised one of her backward bent hands and waved slowly, mockingly. Then she started walking toward the crack. Panicking, Emma grabbed a claw hammer from her toolbox and completely destroyed the mirror. Glass shattered everywhere, cutting her hands and arms, but she didn't stop until every shard was smashed. For 3 days, Emma felt relief, but then she noticed the other Emma in her bathroom mirror, just standing behind her reflection, smiling with those horrible teeth. Emma would spin around, nobody there. Look back at the mirror, there she was. Then it started happening everywhere. Her car's wing mirrors during the commute,
office buildings' lift mirrors, even reflections in shop windows along Piccadilly. The other Emma was always there, always a little closer than before. Emma tried covering all mirrors in her flat, but reflections appeared on her mobile screen when it was off, in puddles of Manchester rain, even in the surface of her morning coffee. The other Emma would mouth words that Emma couldn't hear but somehow understood. Soon. Sleep became impossible. She would close her eyes and feel like someone was watching. She'd open them and catch glimpses of the other Emma in any reflective surface, TV screen when switched off, picture frames under glass, even her own reflection in other people's eyes when she spoke to them. Work colleagues started asking if she was all right. Emma looked shattered and paranoid. She kept avoiding mirrors, walking around reflective surfaces, keeping her phone face down constantly. Her line manager called her for a meeting about her concerning behavior. A month after breaking the mirror, Emma woke up at 3 a.m. to find her bedroom filled with mirrors, dozens of them, different shapes and sizes, all reflecting her room, but showing that other place. And in every single mirror, the other Emma stood right at the surface, hands pressed against the glass from inside. They all spoke in unison, their voices echoing from every mirror. "It's time, Emma. I've been waiting so long to switch places." Emma realized what was happening. The previous tenants hadn't moved to Australia. They'd probably broken the mirror too, but it was too late. The other Emma had already learned enough, copied enough to take over. As Emma watched in horror, all the mirror surfaces began to ripple like water. The other Emma's hands pushed through, then her arms, pulling herself out from that other dimension. The last thing the real Emma saw was her own reflection getting pulled into the mirrors, into that dark Victorian room. Now she was the one with backward bent fingers, black eyes, sharp teeth, trapped behind glass while the other Emma took over her life. People at work said Emma seemed different after her breakdown, more confident, her smile somehow sharper. But if they looked carefully into any reflective surface near her, they might see the real Emma, pressing her hands against the glass from inside, trying desperately to warn them. If these stories sent chills down your spine, don't vanish into the darkness without hitting that like button. Share your scariest experience in the comments below, because your story might be featured next. And remember, the scariest thing is missing out. So subscribe now before the next nightmare finds you.
Ryan was 30 when he had to return to his childhood home in Chester after his parents' tragic death in a motorway accident on the M56. Both parents gone within minutes, leaving behind the old Victorian house, property documents, and decades of memories. Being an only child, everything fell on his shoulders. The house had been empty for almost 15 years, since Ryan moved to London for university and then work. His parents would visit him in London, rather than him coming back to Chester. Too many childhood memories, they said. Too many things better left undisturbed. Now, walking through dust-covered rooms filled with old furniture and family photos, Ryan felt overwhelmed. Every corner held memories. His father's reading chair, his mother's sewing table, the dining room where the family gathered for Sunday roasts. The cellar was the last area to sort through. Boxes of old clothes, books, toys, and random household items his parents couldn't bear to throw away. In one corner, behind stacks of his father's engineering journals, Ryan found a small wooden box with his name carved on it. Inside were his childhood belongings, toy cars, marbles, colored pencils, and a small diary with a faded Spider-Man cover. He remembered this diary. His mother had given it to him when he was 6, encouraging him to write about his day and improve his handwriting. Opening the diary, Ryan saw his own 6-year-old handwriting. Childish letters, uneven lines, spelling mistakes. But as he read the entries, his blood began to run cold. Day 1. Met Shadow today. He says he lives inside the walls. Mum and Dad can't see him. Day 3.
Shadow showed me his home. He can walk through walls like water. His home is dark, but cozy. Day 7. Shadow's teeth are really white, but sharp too. He says he eats insects and spiders, sometimes mice. Day 12. At night, there are scratching sounds in the walls. Shadow is carving my name inside. Dad says it's mice. Day 15. Shadow told me he's really lonely. He's lived here for ages and ages. He wants a friend. Day 25. Shadow is angry because I told Dad about him. Dad wants to take me to see a doctor. Day 31. Shadow promised when I grow up, he'll wait for me. He says I'll be 30 when he comes back for me. Day 35. Last entry. Shadow says he'll hide now. Parents are taking me to doctor, but he promised when I'm 30, he'll take me to live in his home. Best friends forever. Reading this, Ryan's childhood memories came flooding back. He really had talked to Shadow. Imaginary friend, his parents said. Dr. Peterson had also said it was a normal phase. Children develop imaginary companions for emotional support. But now, reading these detailed descriptions, Ryan realized how vivid and consistent his imagination had been. The scratching sounds were real. He remembered nights when sounds came from inside the walls, like someone carving with fingernails. As he finished reading, the cellar suddenly felt colder. That familiar scratching sound started, slow, deliberate, coming from inside the walls around him, exactly like in his childhood. Ryan stood up, diary still in his hands. "Hello? Is someone there?" The scratching stopped. Then slowly, words began appearing on the cellar wall, carved from inside, plaster cracking and falling as invisible hands worked. "Ryan, I kept my promise. 15 years I waited." More words appeared on adjacent walls. "Welcome home, friend. Time to play forever." Ryan backed towards the stairs, but scratching sounds surrounded him. All 4 walls were being carved simultaneously, messages appearing everywhere. "Lonely, so lonely, now we can be together." The wall in front of him began to crack more severely. A vertical line appeared, widening slowly. Behind the crack, Ryan could see darkness, but it was moving darkness, like thick liquid. From the crack, a hand emerged, small like a child's, but with fingernails grown impossibly long, blackened with age and dirt. The nails were sharp like claws, scratching against the wall as the hand pushed through. Then an arm followed, thin, pale, covered in what looked like decades of dust and grime. The scratching sounds intensified as more of the figure pushed through the widening crack. A voice came from inside the wall, childlike, but with an echo that suggested vast emptiness. "Ryan, mate, don't be scared. It's me, Shadow, your best friend. I've been waiting so long to show you my home." More cracks appeared in other walls, more hands pushing through, dozens of them, all child-sized but wrong. Too many fingers, joints bending in impossible directions. Each hand was followed by whispers. "Play with us, stay with us, never leave us alone again." Ryan realized with growing horror that these weren't just Shadow's hands. These were other children, decades worth of children that Shadow had collected over the years. Children who had lived in this house, children who had imaginary friends, children who had disappeared or died young and been forgotten. "Mum, Dad," he whispered, backing up the stairs. "They can't help you now, Ryan," came Shadow's voice, closer now. "They never believed in me, but you did. You were my first real friend, and I never forgot you." The cellar walls were crumbling now. Through the holes, Ryan could see a vast network of tunnels and chambers carved inside the house's structure. Dozens of small figures moving in the darkness. Children who had been taken by Shadow over the decades, now part of his underground family. Ryan ran upstairs, but the scratching followed him. Every wall in the house was being carved from inside. Messages appearing everywhere. "Welcome home, family reunion, forever and ever." He tried to leave the house, but the front door wouldn't open. Windows were stuck. Even his mobile had no signal. The scratching grew louder, more urgent. In the hallway mirror, Ryan saw his reflection, but standing behind him was a small figure. A child about 6 years old, but with ancient eyes, knowing smile, and those terrible long fingernails. Shadow looked exactly as Ryan had drawn him in childhood. Pale, thin, dressed in old-fashioned clothes that looked Victorian. "You grew up well, Ryan, mate," Shadow said, his reflection speaking, while the real Shadow remained invisible. "But you look tired, sad. Life in London wasn't kind, was it? Come with me. In my world, we never grow old, never get tired, never feel lonely." More children appeared in the mirror behind Ryan, dozens of them, from different time periods based on their clothing. Some from the 1800s, some from early 1900s, some more recent, all with the same pale skin, ancient eyes, and long fingernails, all smiling at Ryan. "See, we're all mates here. No parents to say imaginary friends aren't real, no doctors to give us medicine, no schools to separate us, just endless playtime." The mirror began to ripple like water. Shadow's hand pushed through the surface, reaching for Ryan. "Just take my hand, mate, like we used to when we were little. Remember how we'd hold hands and I'd show you the secret passages in the walls?" Ryan stepped back, but realized other mirrors in the house were also rippling. Every reflective surface was becoming a portal. The children were reaching out from all of them, their whispers filling the air. "Play with us, be one of us, never alone again." The house itself seemed to be changing. Walls were shifting, rooms rearranging themselves. Ryan was no longer in his childhood home, but in Shadow's domain, a maze of tunnels and chambers where time moved differently, where children played forever in the darkness. His phone, before losing signal completely, showed dozens of missed calls from his office in London. The timestamp was wrong. It showed that 3 days had passed, though Ryan felt like he'd been in the house for only an hour. The last entry in his childhood diary, which he was still clutching, began writing itself in his 6-year-old handwriting. "Today, Ryan came home. Shadow is so happy. Now we will play forever and ever." The end. Outside, neighbors would later tell police that the old house had been empty for weeks. No sign of Ryan, no trace of where he went. But sometimes, late at night, people walking past the house could hear children laughing from inside. Multiple voices, including one that sounded like an adult man with a London accent, saying, "Right then, Shadow, what game shall we play next?" The house was eventually demolished, but the new estate built on that site has problems. Children living in the new houses start talking about imaginary friends. They draw pictures of pale children with long fingernails, and parents begin to notice scratching sounds in the walls at night. Shadow's family keeps growing, and somewhere in the network of tunnels that exists between the walls of reality, Ryan has joined the eternal playtime, his adult mind slowly forgetting the world above as he becomes another of Shadow's collected friends, forever young, forever playing, forever trapped in the innocent horror of a child's imagination made manifest.
If these stories sent chills down your spine, don't vanish into the darkness without hitting that like button. Share your scariest experience in the comments below, because your story might be featured next. And remember, the scariest thing is missing out. So subscribe now, before the next nightmare finds you.